Welcome everyone to how to dominate your local market using Google My Business, plus some other local SEO optimization tips. Remember, this would apply to any type of business, any type of industry. I'm very happy to welcome Antonio Calabrese from G-Hacks, short for Growth Hacks, on how people hack growing their business, to present to us today. Antonio's got some great content and some free giveaway stuff for you guys. So pay attention, and as a practice, I've muted everyone for now. If you would like to speak, you have the ability to unmute yourself, but please type your questions into the chat box. I will be monitoring that and asking those questions to Antonio as we progress through each stage of the presentation. At the end, there will be an open Q&A as well. So without further ado, Antonio, thank you so much for joining us, and away we go.
Thanks, John. Thanks so much for having me, and I appreciate everyone taking the time out of their day to join us today. Like John mentioned, my name is Antonio Calabrese. I'm the founder and head of growth at G-Hacks Marketing, and today's training session, which at least the content that I'm going to cover should be around 40-ish minutes, but given some time for a Q&A, I would plan on a little bit longer than that. But the topic for today is to understand how to dominate your local market using Google My Business, plus some other local SEO tips that are really going to work well hand in hand with Google My Business. So I want to make sure that we cover those as well. So just so you understand what my goal for this training is, it's really to teach you how to set up and optimize your Google My Business profile, and then give you those insights to other local strategies that can really help you become the dominant agent in your market. And like John said, if you stay until the end of this training, I do have 3 free bonuses that are going to come your way, but you do have to stay to the end so that you can take advantage of those. So just a little background on me and why you should listen to anything that I have to say today. Like I said, my name is Antonio. I'm the founder and head of growth at G-Hacks Marketing. I've been doing this stuff for over 10 years, and I work consistently with businesses and agents like yourself on SEO, Google ads, Facebook ads, web design, and really everything that falls in the digital marketing space. But I have a real passion for SEO, and that's really just about getting you found on Google, and that's why I'm focusing on this training today. Just to give you a really quick, just one testimonial, I have a few more at the end, but just to give you a little bit of social proof here on what some of my reviews look like. There's one here from Jeff. I hid his last name for his own privacy reasons, but I'm just mentioning that we were able to get his website to #1 on Google within his specific location just inside of 2 months. He's really remained there for years. So we have a lot of different testimonials like that, and it's really based on the work that we do that is based specifically off of this training material. So it's just some quick housekeeping before we dive in. If you have other browser tabs open, close those out, silence your phone, close your office door if you're in an office. Really just kind of remove distractions, because as I mentioned, a lot of these tactics are just being offered to you for free, and you want to be able to grasp them as best you can so that you can execute on them properly. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive right in. As I go through this, as John said, if you have questions, put them in the chat box. I'm going to pause multiple times throughout this so we can address specific questions, and then we can also answer questions at the end. So I do want to start with stating the obvious, just because it needs to be said. If you get found on Google, you're going to get a ton of leads. 93% of someone's online search experience begins with a search engine, and most of that goes through Google. 75% of people never click past the first page. 70% of traffic that comes through search engines is from organic listings. That means not paid ads. And search engines are the #1 traffic driver to websites. So this means that if you're not at the very least showing up on the first page of Google for key terms that relate to you, you're going to miss out on a ton of potential leads. And what's worse is that Google has been increasing its ad space on their search engine results page because they're trying to fit more advertisers in there. And that means that there's less opportunity for you to rank organically on page 1 without paying for ads. So if you don't think that your position on page one matters much, just take a look at a few numbers really quick. The number one organic spot gets about 32% of the clicks. Number two spot, 16%. Number five spot, just 5%. So that means if you're only showing up at the number 6 spot or even beyond, you're probably not getting much traffic at all, if any. So we're going to dive into what exactly is important for SEO at a high level overview, and then we're going to break them all down individually. So here are some of the top positive factors when it comes to getting found on Google. Having a complete and accurate Google My Business profile, the quantity and quality of native Google reviews, having photos and videos associated with your GMB profile. GMB means Google My Business. Local citation consistency and quality. And then if you happen to have a website, we need to look at the quality of inbound links that point to your website, your domain authority, making sure that you have a mobile-friendly website, and then the speed of that website. Now, if you don't understand anything I just said, that's okay. I'm going to break all this down for you throughout the training. Now, also, if you don't happen to have a website, some of this information that I'm going to cover won't directly apply to you, but it's still good to know as it does impact every result that shows up above or below you on a search engine results page. So you do need to have an understanding. And then if you happen to have a website developed for you in the future, you want to have these considerations taken in place. So some of the negative factors. So these are things that could cause you not to rank high on Google. If you practice keyword stuffing, so keyword stuffing is taking a bunch of keywords that you want to rank for and putting them everywhere, putting them all over your Google My Business profile, putting them in your website in hopes to rank for those keywords. That's a very old school way of doing it. Google has cracked down on that. So if you do that, you're only going to hurt yourself. So we don't want to keyword stuff. If you don't use the right business categories within your Google My Business profile, if you have multiple profiles, if you have negative reviews, if you have incorrect or inconsistent local citations, if you use an address that is a PO box or a UPS mail store within your Google profile, and if you have a website, if your site has been hacked, if you have low domain authority or a low quality and quantity of backlinks, all of these things are going to negatively impact you. And like I said, I understand that you may not understand what all of this means yet, but hopefully you have a better understanding once this training is over. So the very first task that we want to pay attention to is your Google My Business listing. Google is putting a lot of emphasis on these Google business profiles. So we want to start there first before we dive in to the other tactics that I listed out. And you can manage your Google My Business profile right through your Google account. So why do we want to do this first? Because if you're familiar with Google's local 3-pack, it's one of the most coveted spots when it comes to local search results. Not to mention Google likes to promote their own products and services. So if you're not familiar with the 3-pack, this is what it looks like. If you've ever done a search for any type of local business, whether it's a restaurant, a plumber, a roofer, something like that, you've probably seen this show up. You see the map up top and then those listings below. This is the 3-pack right here. This one right here is an ad. Everything below is the 3-pack. Looking at these three, 44% of people click on one of these results. And then if you're not showing up in one of these three, you're going to be buried under this link that says more places. Only 8% of people click on that more places. So that's why it's so important to optimize your profile and your website and all the other things that go into local SEO to try to get in the local 3-pack. And when you click through to a profile, this is just a random example I took. This is what it's going to look like. You're going to see the name of the profile, links to their website, all the reviews that they have, what they're about, their address, their phone number, photos, reviews, all of this stuff. This is all the stuff that is contained within your Google My Business profile and that we want to optimize for. So with 44% of the people clicking on a map listing, that means that even if you have the #1 spot below the map pack, which is number one organically that I said earlier gets 35% of the clicks, you're still going to lose out on 44% of search traffic. So to better your chances at showing up in the map pack, we want to fully optimize the Google My Business profile. And that's what we're going to do right now is walk through those steps. So first things first, if you don't currently manage a profile, the first thing you want to do is go out to Google and do a search for yourself, because there's a chance that there's already a profile out there with your name on it. If you do find one for yourself, and this is important, if you do find one for yourself, you want to make sure that you claim it. This means that there's one out there and you don't own it yet. So you're going to see something that looks like this blue link down here that says own this business. And that's where you would start. You would start by clicking the link that says own this business, and then Google will provide you some prompts to follow to go through the claiming process. Because like I said, we don't want to have duplicates out there. Now, if you don't find one, then you would just go and set one up from scratch. As I just mentioned, we don't want duplicates. So you would go through, you would claim it, and then you'll come back to this part of the training and start from here. And as I mentioned, some of the freebies I'm going to be giving at the end, one of them is going to include this training deck. So you don't need to go out and start searching now. You don't need to take notes. I'm going to give you all of this step-by-step material for free after the training is over so that you can come back and just
Antonio, I lost your audio there for a moment.
Okay. Where did you lose me?
We lost you when you switched slides.
Okay. Can you hear me now, though?
Yep, good here.
Okay, cool. So the first thing that we want to do when you or to start optimizing your profile is to go to google.com/business. It looks like this. This is where you're going to log in. Now, if you don't have one yet, this is where you would also go to create and set up the profile for the first time. But we're not going to walk through those specific steps because it's very easy. Once you go to create one, they'll just walk you through the steps, asking you for your name, address, phone number, etc. But once you're in there, we want to start optimizing the profile. And the very first thing you're going to do is check what's called your NAP. And NAP stands for name, address, and phone number. And we need to make sure that these are always as correct and consistent as possible everywhere on the web. So this means on your Google profile, on your website, and anywhere else that it shows up. But it's all going to start right here. So when you log in, you're going to see a menu that looks like this, and you're going to hit info, and then you're going to be able to update your name, address, and phone number right there, and you're going to save it. It's going to be that easy. But whatever you put as your NAP information, you want to make sure that it is the information that you plan to use everywhere, on a website, on Facebook, anywhere that you plan to use that information. So this is going to be step one. Another tip is that if you can, and if it's applicable to you, in your name, include the key terms real estate or realtor or something similar, whatever pertains to you, because there is a chance that it can actually help you show up for those key terms. Now, we're not keyword stuffing here, but it's just, you know, if your name is John Smith and you're a realtor and you're John Smith Realtor, or, you know, your company is John Smith Real Estate, then we would want to use that as the full name. Step number two would be to claim your short name. This is also right within that info section that we just clicked here. And Google is going to guide you through this. It says add short name. And the reason we want to do this is because it's going to help make it easier for people to find and follow your business on Google Maps. So we're just going to pick a short name. And so instead of it being a bunch of random letters and numbers that Google assigns to you at the beginning, it's going to be much more concise and very specific to your business name. So we want to make sure we enter that short name, and then we'll click apply. The third thing we want to do is add a business description. And we want to make sure that our business description isn't a sales pitch. So you can see here I have GHACK is a marketing agency with a focus on business growth through SEO, advertising, review management, and other custom solutions. Now, I'm not selling SEO here. I'm not selling Facebook ads or review management. I'm just explaining what it is that we do. So we don't want to be salesy. You just want to give a nice overview of exactly how you operate, how you help people, and what it is that you provide. So we want to make sure that we have a nice, clear, and concise business description, not a sales pitch. And then the fourth thing is that we need to choose correct categories. Because if you remember a few slides before, I said having incorrect categories can have a negative impact. We want to make sure that we have correct categories. And now I'm making an assumption here that based on those who are in this training, that you would use real estate agents or real estate consultant as your primary category, and then you have the option to add additional categories. And when you're in here and you go to edit these, Google will provide some suggestions based on the industry that you're in. So you can just start to type in real estate, for example, and you'll start to see suggestions pop up so that you can choose the correct category that pertains specifically to you. So just you would select your categories. You could add multiple categories, but I would have at least two, a primary category and then one additional category, and then you just simply hit apply. The fifth step is to make sure that you're adding photos. So Google is putting a heavy emphasis on photos so that when people are researching you before they're doing business with you, they want to get a clear picture of who you are. Do you have an office? What does that office look like? Do you have a team? What do they look like? So we want to start adding as many photos as possible. So a note on photos, and this is really great from Google, and what they say that you should be doing is having a picture of yourself. If you have a team, you want to add pictures of your team members. If you have an office, add multiple photos of your office, outside, inside, different angles to really give a clear picture of what that looks like. Any branding that you have, so if you have a logo, make sure that you upload your logo. And then I also suggest to add sold signs. So if you're selling homes or different types of property, after it's sold and you have a sold sign up, take a picture and start to add those into an album in your Google My Business profile. I would shy away from adding photos that say for sale, as it's frowned upon to promote for sale items through your Google My Business profile. But I think it's definitely okay to post images of sold homes or different pieces of property within that. So when doing this, just make sure that you have, these photos are of high quality. And a trick I've learned is that if you're using your smartphone, the camera within your smartphone has a location setting. And if you turn that on, it'll geotag the photo of wherever you are. So if you're in a suburb and you're maybe 10 miles outside of your office and you take a picture, it's going to tag that location within that photo so that when you go and upload it to your Google My Business profile, that location data is going to transfer over with that photo so that when people are searching, that location data is being used as part of that search. So you're going to see in a minute that proximity and distance is a big factor when it comes to ranking in Google Maps. So we want to try to get as many location points as we can. Step 6 is to focus on reviews, right? We all know that reviews are going to influence someone's decision whether they're going to buy something or they're going to work with you in some capacity. So we need to focus on reviews, and Google knows this, so they want you to focus on reviews. So they give you an opportunity here to share a link to your review form. Now, this is the easy part. Obviously, you share the link and you encourage people to leave reviews after you're done working with them, etc. Easy. Now, once people start to leave reviews, you can't just forget about them. You need to go back in and start replying to every single review that comes in, whether it's positive or negative. That's why Google gives you this bar here when you log into your profile, that whether you replied or haven't replied, and then you can reply to each one, is because they want to show that you're active within that profile for a couple of reasons. One, if someone leaves you a positive review, you can simply go in and say, Thanks for your business. Hey, it's been great working with you. Hope to work with you again. Something really simple. But if someone leaves a negative review, you want to show that you're being proactive in offering a resolution. And this is good for two reasons. One, because Google wants you to. And then the second reason is that when potential clients are coming to work with you and they're researching and they see that you have offered a resolution to a problem that somebody had, it kind of eases the tension a bit more and puts them more at ease and says, hey, you know what, if I do have a problem, at least I know that they're going to try to resolve it. As opposed to if you don't respond to a negative review, people might think that, that might happen to them as well. So every single review that comes in, you want to make sure that you're responding to it, and you can do so very simply within your Google My Business dashboard. And then the last piece here is to utilize posts. And posts work kind of similar to creating a Facebook post. It's a similar little box where you can type some information in, you can post a link, but these only show up in your specific business's knowledge panel. So when does the knowledge panel display? So if you go to Google and you search for a specific business, so not a generic term, not just like realtor in Tampa, for example, but if you search for somebody specific, then their knowledge panel is going to show up to the right of Google search results. And it's going to show all their information, their name, their address, their phone number, their website, their photos, but it's also going to show posts. And these posts can be really handy because if you have an update that you want to communicate with people, sure, you can do it on Facebook, but when people are searching on Google, they're not going to see that. So you can also post it here by just hitting add an update. Or if you're hosting an event, you can post events. Or if you have some type of offers or whatever it may be, you can post those. And again, as I mentioned earlier, Google likes to promote its own stuff. So the more you use the features that Google has put into it, the better they're going to favor you. So we want to make sure that we're utilizing every feature that they provide. And this is one that they've been pushing hard as well. So these posts are usually only up for about a 7-day time period. So you want to make sure that you're getting in there, every week, every 2 weeks, and trying to come up with something new to post. It could be an article. It could just be a general update. A real-time update that we're experiencing now would be with everything with COVID. So you could have something that talks about how you're working through this time and what that update looks like. So we want to make sure that we're utilizing posts within your profile as well. So at the end of the day, this is how Google will determine if you're going to rank in that map pack that I showed you before. There's three main things that they take into consideration. Your relevance. So this is how well the listing will match the search query that's entered into Google. The distance. So that's how far away each result is based on either the search term. So the search term could be a city or a zip code, for example, or the proximity of the searcher, and that would use that searcher's device location. So, for example, if I just did a search for realtor, Google's going to use my device's location to provide results for realtors near my location, as opposed to if I do realtor plus a city, then it's going to use that city as the search term to determine distance. And then the third piece is prominence. And this is how well known a business is, plus other factors. And these other factors are everything else that I'm going to cover in this training, right? So this whole training could have been just about optimizing your GMB profile, but there's so much that goes into prominence that we need to consider those things, because in a lot of cases, you're going to lose on the distance factor, right? Because if you think about it, if someone is, let's say, 10 miles away from your business location and they do a search, but in between you and that person, there are 6 other realtors, for example, and they're closer in distance to that person. And let's say 3 of those realtors are doing a great job in the relevance and or the prominence piece. You're already going to lose to them because you've lost on distance and they've already, and they're doing well on these other pieces. So you need to make sure that you are doing the absolute best you can on both relevance and prominence so that you can hopefully sneak into some of these distance queries. And then if you're going to rank for that distance query anyway because you're the closest result, then you're going to guarantee yourself that you're going to be in that top 3 because you're nailing all 3 of these things. So that's why it's very important that we focus on these things. So the rest of the training is going to be everything that goes in to the prominence piece, okay? Because you can't really control distance. Your location is your location, but we can control a lot of the prominence aspects, and that's what we want to do. Okay, so that was part 1 of the training, just specifically on Google My Business profile optimization. So if we want to take questions now, John, it's up to you. We can if there's a bunch coming through. Otherwise, we can hold them till the end. Completely up to you.
Yeah, I've got a lot of questions, and they're all relevant to that section. So we'll go through them one by one here.
Okay.
So first off, if you search your name and find that that your name or your business is already appearing, you click Own This Business, but it's saying it's already claimed. How can you go about correcting that or getting into that account?
Sure. So if you have to make sure that you haven't claimed it in the past, first of all, maybe you set it up a long time ago and didn't remember. That's one thing you want to make sure that you didn't do. If not, Google does have a method that you can follow to prove that you are the actual business owner. And then you would submit that information to Google, and then they would respond with a decision as to whether or not that you are in fact the true owner. Now, if they deny that request and they're not giving it to you, then at that time I would suggest going and setting up a new one and try to do all of the right things so that the new profile is the one taking over, if that makes sense. So when you click Claim This Business, it should give you an option to request ownership for it.
Yeah, I've gone through that once. Somebody had created a duplicate page of ours, and it was a request that was pushed through. They got an email, clicked on it, and I was given access. So if it could be from an old email, it's possible that you'll get that in your other email address. But if it goes nowhere and you don't hear back, you can appeal that through Google.
Correct.
All right, next question. Regarding naming your Google My Business place, as a realtor, would you recommend doing just name and realtor or including the company name as well? For example, Kate Stout Realtor or Kate Stout Realtor with Remax?
It actually doesn't matter because if you're with Remax, you're allowed to have your own profile, and you can say with Remax, but I guess the reason I would probably advise against putting Remax in there, for example, is that if you were to ever go elsewhere, then you would have to go through, and what you're going to see in the next section will probably trigger the aha moment here, but then you're going to have to go and fix all of your local citations that will have Remax listed in there. And that's a big pain to go through and do. So I would probably leave that piece out.
Okay, that makes sense. When you are uploading photos to your Google My Business location, does the name of the file that you are uploading matter whatsoever?
Okay. So the photo file name, I always advise, and you'll hear me say it in this training as well, I always rename my photos to what they are, because the way Google works is, the way their bot works and the way they see images is by the file name and by alt tags, which I'm going to cover. So it's always best practice to rename your images to exactly what they are, or what you're trying to portray in that image.
Okay, thank you. Next one. I've got 6 left here.
That's fine.
Next one. When uploading photos, would you advise for or against uploading photos of you with a customer, like at a closing table, shaking hands, things like that?
Yeah, you can definitely do that. Yeah, Google wants to see you in action. So, yeah, I mean, as long as, I guess you may want to get your customer's permission or the client's permission. you know, if you're going to take a photo with them and just say, hey, we're going to upload this to, you know, to Google My Business, or share it on Facebook. But yeah, I think that's, you know, good practice to showing the real side of everything that's going on. Yeah, I would say the more real you can be within the photos, the better.
Okay. Regarding address location, would you advise using their home address or main office address where there could be a lot of location listings? Many work from home and would prefer to farm the area around their home compared to whatever office location they are affiliated with.
You can definitely use your home address. The reason a lot of people don't like to use their home address is because, you know, then your home address is out there. But if you're okay with that, then there's no harm. Then you can definitely, if your home address and you feel is a better or is more advantageous for proximity purposes, then yeah, go right ahead and do that.
As it pertains to real estate, especially in Florida, all of our addresses are already public records. You can go pull up somebody's license and already know where they live.
Oh, okay. So
but
yeah,
we're out there to begin with.
Yeah, so if it works better for you, especially from a proximity standpoint, then yeah, you definitely want to do that.
Okay. This is a bit of a selfish question here. Is there a benefit of directly submitting your post articles through the Google My Business? Or I've actually just implemented a WordPress plugin that auto feeds blog postings from the website direct to Google My Business. Is there a benefit of doing one over the other, or is it interchangeable?
I mean, I haven't seen data to confirm that or not. But I think, yeah, as long as it's, you know, if it's a plugin that's doing it for you, it's probably just using Google's API and it's still publishing on your profile. So I don't see why one would be better than the other. As long as the post is still going up, it should be just fine.
It's something brand new I just heard about, so I just started. Regarding the events on the Google My Business location, would that be an ideal place to list like an open house, for example?
Yeah, sure. Why not? The only thing you want to just be careful of is you don't want to promote like the actual for sale piece, right? Google doesn't want you selling through it. So you can post event details, but I would omit a lot of the more salesy pieces to it, like price and things like that.
Okay. Would post updates or the updates section that you had on the screen, the button, would that work or be useful for sharing a graphic or a picture of the front of the home with sold across it? You know how the banner is shared with social media frequently? Yeah,
I mean, you can do that. Whether that's going to be super beneficial to you or not, probably not. I think that would be better suited for your photos area. The post section is really meant to provide people with updates, right? Because like, if I'm Googling John Smith Realty and the knowledge panel shows up on the right and I see an update and it's just a picture of a house with a sold sign, does that really do anything for me? Not really. But if you have an update, that says like, hey, we have an event coming up and I might be interested in that event. Now that's something I want to learn more about. Or if you have, let's say you wrote a new article on, or a new guide or something like that about home buying, or there's something going on with mortgage rates in the area and you want to publish something on that, something that's going to benefit me as the person searching, that's the stuff that would be more helpful. So photos, I think with sold signs would be best suited for your photos area.
Okay. Just two more, and we'll get to the next section.
No problem.
Is there any type of penalty imposed by Google for posting the same or publishing the same post multiple times, or when it expires after 7 days, going and putting it up again?
I haven't seen any type of penalties for that.
Okay. And last one, when you post, when you do create an update or a post, are you able to include a link or direct clicks to a blog?
Yes. So when you're creating the post, it'll ask, if you can add a button basically and it'll link right out to the blog. So if I go back, so you can see here, like this one was basically, so this post that I had, I mean, this is, over a year ago now, but it's just to a blog post that we wrote, but it talks about, so when people are searching us, they're probably thinking of digital marketing, and this is talking about backlinks and SEO. So this is really just a link to a post. So if they click this, it would have went right to our website.
Okay. I believe that was all the questions. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, so we just finished optimizing the Google My Business profile. So the next thing we want to talk about that is super important as well are your NAP listings. These are often referred to as local citations. So if you hear me say citations, local citations, or NAP listings, all the same thing. I just sometimes interchangeably say them, but they're all the same thing. And what these are your listings that are spread out across the web. And it's your name, address, phone number, and if you have a website, your website as well. So just remember that NAP is name, address, phone. And this is why I mentioned during the Google My Business optimization is that we want to have these as accurate as possible within that setup, because you're going to see that it gets spread out across the web, and we need to have consistency there. The reason why is because Google and everything that they do is always looking to provide the best user experience to those who are searching. And if you have incorrect information out there, that ultimately provides a poor user experience, right? So think of this example. Someone does a search and finds your business information, and the phone number is old and outdated, and they call it and they get a disconnected line. That's a poor user experience. Google doesn't want that happening to people who are searching, because that's not a good result. So you're going to get penalized for that. So we need to make sure that we're being consistent. So when we're looking at searches, Google, like I mentioned, will always use geo-qualifiers. So whether they're going to use a search term like a city, state, or zip code, or if they just type in near me, they're going to use the geolocation of that person searching. For example, real estate agents near me, it's just going to use my device. And if one of your listings has one phone number or an address, for example, and then another listing shows up and it has a different phone number, but only one of them is correct and only one of them works, Google's getting confused on, hey, which one am I supposed to be showing here, right? That's why we want to make sure in the Google My Business profile, we have the most up-to-date and correct phone number that is usable. Now, having this incorrect information, because Google gets confused and because they don't want to provide that poor user experience, as I mentioned, that can cause your legitimacy to tank. And we don't want that to happen, because if your legitimacy tanks in Google's eyes, then you go down the rankings, which is obviously bad for bringing in new business. So I suggest that whatever format you used in your GMB profile, we want to use it everywhere, okay? So the key things that we need to focus on here are making sure that we are 100% accurate in the GMB profile, and then also is the format that you use. And the format is secondary, okay? So some of these suggestions that I'm going to make on format are super subtle. They might not even be a big deal, and they might not even impact your ranks. But Google is constantly changing, and I always like to remain cautious, because I've seen businesses in the past that were always the top dog on Google, and then Google makes a change, and now they lose all their rankings because they didn't prepare. So I always like to be cautious and prepared. So this is a cautious example here, okay? Because the difference is so subtle. We have 111 Main Street abbreviated and 111 Main Street spelled out. Like I said, this may not have any impact now, but it may be considered different in the future. So why not just be accurate now, right? The same is going to go for your phone number. If you're using dashes or parentheses, probably not a big difference or a big impact on you now, but it may be considered different in the future. So I always err on the side of caution. So like I said, it doesn't matter which format you choose to use. You can use abbreviations. You can use dashes in your phone number. It doesn't matter. What matters is being consistent. Consistent and accurate is what you want to focus on when we're dealing with local citations. So again, on your GMB profile, if you have a website, on your social profiles, any other websites that you're listed on, Realtor.com, Trulia, Zillow, whatever they may be, you want to be consistent everywhere. I just mentioned a few of these names. These are probably some of the more recognizable names where you may have a local citation. There are hundreds of directory-style sites that aggregate data or that pull data from different spots to list your business information because they want to fill their site up with that information. So that's why you need to make sure that you have accurate information out there. Now, if you've been in business for a while, chances are your NAP information is already spread out across multiple sites. And it also means that you may have a previous address or phone number still out there if you've ever changed it in the time you've been in business, right? So if you've moved or if you've changed, your cell phone or a landline that you may have, if you've changed those and you haven't gone back and updated where that information may have been, then you definitely have inconsistencies out there. And if you have inconsistencies, you have to check them and you have to fix them if you want to rank high. Because if you have inconsistencies from a local SEO standpoint, it's really going to knock you down the ranks. Now, this is a really time-consuming process. All right, the first step is auditing. And I'm going to provide you at the end of this an opportunity to audit your listings to see where you stand. But then fixing them, let's say you find 30 inconsistent listings. Fixing them can be very time consuming because you have to go to each site. Assuming you're doing this yourself, you'd have to go to each site, create accounts, log in, update the listings, verify the listings, and all that. But it's super important to do. But again, it's going to depend on what that audit looks like. And at the end, I'm going to give you the opportunity for the audit. So when we talk about NAPs or local citations, this is going to be your checklist. And remember, you don't have to write this down. You're getting this training guide at the end so you can start to follow these bullet points. You want to determine your exact formatting of your listing. That's how you're going to include it on your GMB profile and on your website and on your Facebook page and wherever else you have control right now. You're going to update those immediately, the ones that you can access very quickly to exactly how you want it. Then you're going to perform an audit so that you can view all the other directory style sites out there for your listings, and you're going to review them for consistency and making sure that they are also accurate. And then for any of those that you find that are inconsistent or just missing or plain wrong, then you want to fix as many of those as possible. So if you don't have listings on these sites, or if you find inconsistencies, these are definitely some of the top sites that you want to pay attention to first. So that's Zillow, Trulia, Realtor, Active Rain, Yelp, Better Business Bureau, and then the local Chamber of Commerce. If you're a member and you have a listing on the Chamber website, then you want to make sure that one's accurate as well, because Google definitely indexed that data, as they're a local business organization that focuses on local businesses. So that's it for the NAP listings. We can pause here if we have a bunch more questions.
I actually had no questions pop in, so you can keep flowing.
Cool. So that was pretty self-explanatory, but it's super important, so keep it in mind. All right, so for those of you who do have a website, we're going to go over a few things that are more website specific. But like I said, even if you don't have one, a lot of this stuff does play into what's happening around your listings with people who do have websites. So it's good information to know. And then if you ever do set up a website in the future, you'll have this information at your fingertips. Some of this I'll breeze through pretty quickly because it's at a very basic level. But again, just keep that in mind that it is still relevant even though you don't have a website. So these edits that I'm going to suggest are going to take place on the back end of the website. So either you would have to have access to the website editor, or you'd have to, be in contact with someone who makes those changes for you. but they are very basic changes. You don't have to go in there and edit code or anything like that unless you have a, you know, really cool custom developed website. But if you're using like a builder, like a WordPress or a Wix or a Squarespace or something like that, then this is super easy to do. But the first thing you want to look at is your title tags. So when you do a Google search, I'm sure you've all seen this. This is what one listing looks like, right, on a Google search. And this first piece is your title tag. And what title tags do is they help Google understand what your page is about. And it also is the first thing that people see when they do the search, and it tells them what the page is about. So a lot of times people make the mistake and they don't optimize what this is. So let's just say like it's your home page, for example, and if it's not optimized, it'll just say home here. And that doesn't really make sense. That doesn't tell Google what it is, doesn't tell me what it is. So you want to optimize it. Like, for example, this blog post is called SEO Blog Tips, how to optimize your website posts. And then here's my business name, right? So we want to optimize that title tag. Super easy to do. You just want to stay within 50 to 60 characters. You want to use your primary keyword first. So as you can see, SEO Blog Tips, that's the keyword I was focusing on. So I use that first. We don't want to use keyword stuff. You know, remember I said earlier, no keyword stuffing anywhere. Avoid all caps titles, and then give each page of your website a unique title, because they all should be unique. Otherwise, you don't need all of those pages. So if every page you have should have its own unique title to describe what it is. The next is going to be your meta description. Also very similar, but it's this part below the title down here that describes in more detail what the page is about. Now, the text in here doesn't directly impact the page rank itself, but it does increase or decrease the click-through rate. So the click-through rate is how many times this page is served up in Google, and then how many times people click on it. It's that percentage. And the higher percent of a click-through rate that you have, the higher rank Google will give you. So we want to really think of this as ad copy, right? It's description. It's what's going to entice someone to click on this part. So you really want to describe this in the best detail as you kind of get someone to click on this post, because that's going to help increase your click-through rate, which does impact your rank. So some tips on doing that: you get 160 characters you want to stay within. Again, think of it as ad copy, because you want people to click through to it to increase that click-through rate. You want to avoid duplicates, just like I said with page titles, and then avoid all caps. And then lastly for this piece is you want to make sure if you have a website that you have Google Analytics set up and then Google Search Console set up. These two applications really just help you understand how you're appearing in search and how people are finding you. So it's really just some analytics tools that's going to provide you data. Now, excuse me, I'm not going to go through all of this setup now because that would take probably a couple of hours. But if you go to analytics.google.com and google.com/webmasters, Google will walk you through how to do it. And then I'm also available after the fact. If you need some guidance on how to do that, I'd be happy to help you do that as well. But again, if you would just go to those websites, you're going to get this slide deck after, but go to those websites and follow the setup. Again, this is for those who have websites. So we'll pause here for questions if there's any.
I don't see them. I see some particular question regarding specific circumstances, but I'm answering those. You may proceed.
Okay, cool. Sorry. All right, the next piece we're going to talk about is content. Why do we want to talk about content? Because content is a massive part of any digital marketing strategy. And it's really, it doesn't matter what medium or channel that the content appears, but we want to make use of it in some form or fashion, whether we're using one channel or we're using multiple channels. Because content is going to determine how visitors choose to engage with your website, your GMB profile, your social profiles, and also for which keywords that Google is going to find your site relevant for. But how do we determine exactly what people are looking for? There's three main content categories, actually four. There's articles and pages, which are more specific to your website, or if you write articles for other people's websites, that would fall under that category as well. There's photos, there's videos, and there's audio. So we're just going to touch on each of these briefly, just to give you an overview of how content comes into play with these channels. So the first is articles and pages. So to get an idea of how we can start to integrate keywords within articles or pages on our website, the easiest way to do so, and it's one of my favorite ways, is that you go to Google and you perform a search. And then prior to hitting enter on your keyboard when you're typing it into Google, you want to take a look at the suggested searches that Google provides, because those suggestions that Google shows are what people often search for and are great key phrases to jot down, take note of, and then use in the content that you're going to create. I'm going to show you an example of what that looks like in just a second. Why do we want to do that? Because those suggestions are relevant to the original search that you typed in. So if you make use of those suggested keywords or phrases within page content on your site, you're more likely to rank for a variety of related key terms and not just the one key term that you're targeting, right? So if you think about it this way, you might type something into Google and search for one way, and I might search for the exact same thing a different way, and John might search for the exact same thing a different way. So we want to understand how those people are searching and then use all of those different variations of that search term in the content that we produce. Okay, so here's a couple of examples. So again, if you go to google.com and you start to type in a search term, Google is going to make suggestions. So this is before I hit enter on this search term. This is what I typed in. And then here's all of the suggestions that Google has given me, right? So if I type in buy a house Tampa, it's going to say other people are searching for where to buy a cheap house in Tampa. Should I buy a house in Tampa? Best place to buy a house in Tampa. And you can start to think about how you can incorporate that, right? So if you're going to, let's say you're going to write an article for your website or for someone else's website, or you know, for a post that you're going to create and post it to your GMB profile that talks about buying a house in Tampa, for example. You may want to start to consider, you know, some of the key terms like incorporating best place to buy, or the best time to buy, or where to find cheap houses in Tampa, things of that nature, so that when anyone types in one of these related search terms, that piece of content that you produce has the opportunity to also show up for those. Whereas if you focus on just buy a house in Tampa, you're not going to show up for these other variations. So we want to make sure that we do keyword research for variations and then incorporate that in the content that you produce. And this is going to apply for written content and also videos that you may produce, audio that you produce. You want to make sure that you're using different variations. Just make sure that they make sense within the context of that content. And like I said, that's the simplest, fastest way of doing it. It's always my first go-to. There are other tools, methods that you can use. I'm not going to cover all of those, but you can reach out to me after, and I'd be happy to point you in the right direction on where you can start to find other ways of doing keyword research. Another great way to generate content is to answer questions. So think of questions that you might get asked all the time, and then answering those in written format and video format, whatever. And then including that on your website or on your GMB profile. Your GMB profile actually has a place for question and answers. So you want to take those questions and then create answers for them. It's one of the easiest ways to create content. So
Let me interject there real quick, Antonio, and put this in perspective for the realtors. Think about questions that you're asked all the time. You provide buyer's guides, seller's guides, pieces of advice, the steps to a sale, what to do before you list your home, what to do before you go out and buy. All of these are knowledge-based answers that Google will scrub and pull to try and answer questions that are searched for.
Yes, that's exactly right. So you might already have a lot of this material, and then you can just transfer that material into other types of formats. So you can transfer it to, you know, Google Posts, or if you have a website, you can create blog posts, you can create FAQ pages for those questions. just think about how you can start to use that content that you may have in maybe a printed format or a PDF format, or maybe just kind of in your back pocket that you send out to people that you're working with to answer those questions, and then make use of those in different ways online that will help you get found for, because if someone's going to ask it to you personally or over the phone or through an email, they're probably going to Google and asking that same question when they ask that question. So that's why we want to translate it into different content pieces. All right, the next piece is photos. I'm sure you're familiar, but Google indexes a ton of photos, right? If you type in a search term, you hit images, you're going to see a ton of photos on here. And the way Google does this is they have to see the photo some way. And I see, I know you can't see me, but I'm using quotation marks. And they do that through what's called alt tags and then those file names. So this is kind of what we touched on a little earlier in the file names. But you can see that these websites are utilizing their photos correctly. And when people come here and click through to this, it's going to go to this website here. It's going to go to this website. It's going to go to this website. It's going to go to this website. So this is still a traffic source for when using photos. So as I mentioned, we want to use what's called alt tags and file names to help Google see what the image is all about. So let's just quickly walk through what that means. So the first step is to rename your image file, right? Because if you take a photo with your regular camera or your cell phone, it usually doesn't translate correctly from a file name perspective. It usually looks like this, some type of jumbled, letters and numbers. And then even if you found a stock photo online, for example, and you have the rights to use it, right? You're applying or complying to copyright, and you download it, a lot of times it'll be something like, let's say Ryan's a photographer and it's called Photo by Ryan. That's not specific to what it is that you're using. But again, we want to rename it to be specific. So if it's pertaining to, I know I just keep using Tampa as just the city that I entered in here, so don't take offense. But we would just want to make sure that we're using something specific. So residential real estate Tampa, for example, if the photo is specific to residential real estate in that city, right? Because that's going to tell Google that this photo is about residential real estate in this area. The next is to reduce image size. Okay, so photos or cameras these days, your cell phones, they take very high resolution photos and they are massive in size, usually like 3, 4, 5 megabytes, even if you download a high quality one online. And if you're posting it to your website, for example, it's going to slow down your website. And at the beginning of this presentation, I said speed was a factor. So we need to optimize for speed. And one of the best ways to do that is to what's called compress the image. And you don't need to know how to do that. There's a site called tinyjpg.com. Okay, you go to that, you upload the photo, it compresses it within about 5 seconds, and then you re-download it, and it makes the file size much smaller without impacting the quality of the photo. So reducing the file size doesn't mean that we're going to shrink the size of the photo, because we don't want to do that. We don't want to have blurry photos. We still want to have those high quality photos, but we need to compress the file size, and we can do that simply for free through a website called tinyjpg.com. It's super easy to use. So we want to do that. Again, this is if you're uploading them to your website and also your Google My Business profile, because they don't want you to have super large file sizes. So I would always advise renaming the file and then compressing it using a site like tinyjpg.com. And then we want to tag it with alt text. Okay, so alt text is typically if you're uploading a photo to your website, and it's basically a tag that goes in the background of the photo so that when Google is scanning your website, it sees it. So again, using that residential real estate Tampa, we would have that photo with the file name residential real estate Tampa, and then we would give it the alt text residential real estate Tampa as well, so that when Google is scanning the site, it sees the photo and it sees this text and it says, okay, this photo is about residential real estate in Tampa. And then that's how it starts to understand what the photos are on your site. And again, if you're using any type of website builder like WordPress, Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, they all have very easy options to when you're uploading photos to add alt text. So whether you're managing that or someone else's, just make sure that you are utilizing alt text. Okay, moving on to videos for the next piece of this. We need to talk about videos because by 2021, video content is going to represent as much as 82% of all traffic on the internet. You're probably already seeing this. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, all you're seeing is videos, 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 videos. So we need to start to make sure that we're transitioning some of our content to video format. And what video platform should you be focused on? YouTube. And why do we want to do that? It's because YouTube is obviously the largest video site, and also because Google owns YouTube. And what have I said a couple times in the training already? Google loves to promote its own product and services. So we want to make sure that if you're trying to rank in Google, we want to use as much as Google's products as we can. And obviously YouTube is actually the second largest search engine, only next to Google itself. So we want to make sure that any video content that you are creating, that you're uploading to YouTube. Now, when you are uploading videos to YouTube, there's a few things that we want to do. The first thing is we want to geotag your YouTube video. Again, geotagging is all about putting a location in it. And because you operate as a business within a very specific location in the country, we want to tag it. So when you're uploading the video, you can click on, you'll see an option for advanced settings, and then it'll ask for video location. You can simply just type in, your specific location here, and it'll tag that video with the location and will help it be found for that specific location. Because you may have done Google searches yourself, and you're not even on YouTube, but you're on Google, and some of the search results are videos. And that's because they're relevant to that search query and to that location. So we want to make sure that you're tagging that location. Step 2 within your videos is you want to use keywords. This is going to be just like when I talked about the website. You want to use keywords in your title, in the description, and then in the video tags. So when you upload a video, it's going to ask you for a title, it's going to ask you for a description, and it's going to ask you for tags. So we just want to make sure that whatever that video is about, we want to be very specific. And then you want to tag it with things that are relevant. So if it's about, again, let's just say real estate, then you would tag it with the term real estate. If it's about, tips to sell your home, you would want to tag it with tips to sell your home, because it helps Google or YouTube serve up that video to people who are asking those questions within the search engine of Google itself or the search engine of YouTube. And then step 3, this one might seem weird, but you want to say your keyword, right? As freaky as a lot of this technology is getting today with all listening to us, YouTube actually can understand what it is you're saying in the video. It can transcribe automatically, if you ask it to, what you said in the video. It can essentially hear what you're saying. So when you say your keyword throughout the video, or other variations of those keywords after you do your keyword research, it's going to help you be found for those keywords. So again, just like I said before, you want to make sure that it makes sense within the context of the video. But if you can say the keyword in there and other variations, it's only going to help your rankings. And then step 4, you want to consider length. It's been proven that longer videos tend to rank better than shorter videos. But again, only make it longer if it makes sense to within the context of what you're doing. If it makes sense to have the video only be a minute long, then that's fine. You want to just still be efficient. But if you can, if you have enough content to fill 10 minutes worth and it's still going to be relevant and keep people engaged, then you'd be better off with a 10-minute video. And then step 5, we want to include location-specific information anywhere possible. So that includes your company name, your location, your phone number, and your web address. And you can do this at the end of the video, in the video itself, and then also in the video description. And you can just say, hey, to contact us, to follow us, you can use these links. And you can have a link to your website or a link to your Google My Business profile, link to your Facebook page, whatever it may be. You want to include all of that relevant information everywhere you can. And then a bonus tip that I have, and this is a realtor that I work with local in my area, and they've been really successful in doing this, is they actually turn their podcasts in video. So they do podcasts, and they have a lot of content on that podcast, and then they record it with a camera, and then they post it to YouTube. So now they have an audio file, and then they also have a video file. So, but they only have to create the piece of content once. So you can do that as well. So if you're, recording a podcast, for example, you can turn that into a video, or you can turn a video into a podcast by just downloading the audio and then publishing that to different, podcast applications. So obviously it's not something we're going over. This is just an idea of how you can start to use content in different ways. But that's just one way that you can, make one piece of content branch out into two. Okay, any questions on this section? After this, I only have one more topic to cover, and then we're gonna go into, the freebies and wrap things up. But just so you know where we're at, we're getting close to the end, but I can pause here if we have questions.
There was only one item, which I'm not sure if I answered properly, was regarding the size of images. Is there a particular size or memory amount that you want to try and get images down to? I guess essentially it's, if you have an image that's already similar in size, going to get it reduced further is really unnecessary.
Yeah, so I can answer that. So it's going to depend. For Google My Business specifically, they want it between 10 kilobytes and 5 megabytes. So, 5 megabytes is still a fairly large image size. But for your website, you always want to get it down to the smallest possible. As small as you can get it without compromising quality. And if you already have images on your site, instead of downloading them and then compressing them through tiny JPG and then re-uploading them, a lot of times, it depends where your website is, but if you're using WordPress, for example, there's plugins that will compress all of the images on your site that you already have to help reduce the file size. But if you're not using WordPress, then you may have to re-download them and compress them. And that's only if you're finding that your site is running slow. If the site's operational with some larger images on there, then I really wouldn't worry about it. You can run free speed tests to see if your site is slow. You can just Google website speed test, and you type in your URL, and it'll tell you, how fast it is and give you a score. And if it's slow, the culprit is most of the time large images. So I would start there.
Okay, next one, regarding video uploads and lengths of them. Is there a suggested length of a video, like a minimum, an average, around, or anything like that that you can provide guidance on?
No, there isn't. I would just cover your topic in full, what that video is about, and, whatever it ends up being is what it is. Like I said, if, the longer, the better, but you don't want to fill up a video with just, fluff just to get a longer video, because you're going to lose engagement. And one of the measuring factors that YouTube looks at is engagement of your video. So if you have a 10-minute video and YouTube sees that everyone always clicks out of the video after 2 minutes, that's a low engagement. And they're going to say, okay, people don't really like to engage with this video, so we're not going to rank it high. But if you have a 10-minute video that's super engaging and people are staying till the 8-9 minute mark, then that's great. But if you have a 2-minute video and people are staying till the minute 30 mark or 2-minute mark, that's also super engaged. So you want to think about engagement as well. So that's why I said only create the longer videos if you can fill it with good content that will keep people engaged. Otherwise, just do enough to get your point across or what it is that you want to convey, and end it at that point. Okay, and the next one applicable for you would be, does that mean that we are interested in photo file size primarily for a website, not just for picking for posts on Google My Business? I guess the best way to answer that is going to be,
as long as you have a small file size without compromising the quality of the image, that's really what you're looking for
Correct.
website usage. If you're using it for posts on your Google My Business, how would that change? High resolution, lower impact, what's the difference there?
Yeah, so for Google My Business, you still want high resolution. And Google My Business has guidance. They say specifically that the optimal photo size is 720 pixels by 720 pixels. And they want you to stay under 5 megabytes in file size. Now, typically photos that are 720 by 720 will be under 5 megabytes. So you shouldn't have any problem there. So, you know, you could just resize the image to a 720 by 720 and you're probably fine.
Okay, I think that's all I have right now.
Okay, cool. So like I said, this is going to be the last section of the training. And then, you know, I'll get into some of the freebies. We can answer more questions that come up and anything else that comes up at that point. So the last topic is going to be link building. And when it comes to link building, just like content, link building is another cornerstone of any successful SEO strategy. And when it comes to local SEO, local link building is also super important. And that's the process of building locally relevant backlinks to help establish a business at the top of a geo-targeted keyword. That seemed like a lot of jargon, so let me break it down very simply. Backlinks are simply just a link to your website from another website, okay? So, and backlinks are only going to matter if you have a website, because that's what other people are linking to. So when we think of backlinks, the more authority that a website has that is linking to you, the better. So what does that look like? Just to give you a quick example, if your local news station links to you, it's going to be much better that if your cousin's Barb's cat blog that doesn't get much traffic links to you, right? And I use that example because that's just like a no-name blog that maybe, you know, a family member has, and like, oh, I'll link out to you, you know, to your website, but they're a no-name and they don't get much traffic. Google looks at them as low authority, right? But with a local news station, Google already trusts them and already looks to them to be an authority. And what Google says is that, okay, if local Channel 12 News is going to link to John Smith's Realty website, well, then John Smith's Realty website must be trustworthy because, you know, Channel 12 News wouldn't link out to them if they weren't trustworthy. So that's where authority comes in versus low authority. So the point here is that you want to get as many backlinks from as many high authority sources as possible. The more you have, the better chances you have of ranking high. So I have a few methods that we can look into when it comes to link building, but they are going to be high level overview because I have a list of them, and to dive into each one of them in depth, again, would be a whole nother training session on its own. But they should be pretty self-explanatory. And if they're not, I can explain them further. You can just ask the question in the chat. So here are some of the top methods when it comes to local link building. The first one is you can offer to write for your local news, right? So you can reach out to them and say, hey, I have some content that, you know, can be relevant to this market. You know, would you be willing to publish it as a news? So it's basically, you're being a guest contributor to that local news station. And within that, you ask them to link back to your website, maybe like in the author bio or within the text itself. And maybe you come up with something that's very relevant to your area, you know, that's specific to the industry and that market. And you have the insight and the knowledge to speak on that. And you're going to provide that information for the local news station to then disperse. But you're going to be the authority on that page with a backlink. You can also list your website in hyper local directory. So if your city happens to have a website that is, I call it an explorer city type of website, you know, where you can go on there and you can, you know, find all different types of businesses, then you'd want to sign up on that site and get listed on there. Again, local chambers of commerce always hold authority with Google. So if you're a member of the local chamber, make sure that your info on that site is up to date. If you're not, you know, it might be worth dropping the $100 or a couple $100, whatever that might cost to join, just to even get that backlink. Plus you'll get the other benefits of a local chamber, but that's definitely something to consider. If there's any local awards being held and you think you may qualify, try to enter and win those local awards, because then a lot of times whoever's hosting those award ceremonies will then add you to their website and talk about you and link back to you. Same if you're doing something newsworthy, the news will do an article on you and link back. You can make use of alumni links. So if you work in the same area that you grew up in, or if you went to college and you went to college there, a lot of times, you know, universities will have an alumni portal, and you can create a free account there, and it'll ask you, hey, what are you up to these days? And then you can type in all your business information, place a link to your website. And that's a great link to have, because it's coming from a highly trusted source. It's coming from a university, for example. So definitely check out if you're an alumni somewhere local to you now, then you want to go and secure that alumni link.
Antonio, a question for you regarding the awards. Will this recognize links if they're done on past awards, as long as there's a page active with a link on it?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure.
Okay. So as long as there's an active link somewhere, it's still considered a backlink, whether it's aged or brand new.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And actually, aged backlinks are actually really good, assuming it's from a quality source, and then that information is still relevant. Where it would become less relevant is if it was on like a page that talked about something that was 5 years ago and doesn't even exist anymore, right? But if it's on a relevant page, now it's not going to hurt you, especially if it's still on a high authority page. But yeah, it still comes into play for sure.
Good deal.
Okay, cool. The other thing you can do is sponsor local charity events. A lot of times, local charities will offer to display, your name and your website on their website, even for very low sponsorship amounts. So, sometimes you can get away with it for like $50, $100. Just making any type of donation will get you listed as a sponsor on their website. So explore local charities, ones that you are comfortable supporting and having your name behind, and go and, see what their guidelines are and see if you can get a link posted on their website there. If you're hosting any type of local events, obviously probably outside of open houses, but any type of events that may be newsworthy, again, reach out to local news and see if it's, they'll list that event. Maybe they have an event section on their website, and get it posted there. And then that backlink or that link will link to your event page on your website, which will definitely equate to a backlink. So that's a good way to get it. And then you can get listed on industry-specific directories. I believe like ActiveRain was one where you can go get listed, or on Realtor, Zillow. Like those are type of directory-style sites that you want to go get listed on. And then you can also offer, if you have the means to, you can offer scholarships to local schools. And then because a lot of schools and universities have scholarship opportunities right on their website. So if you create a scholarship opportunity for students and you detail that information on your website, and then the school creates that scholarship opportunity on their website, they'll link back to your scholarship page. And that's another way to get a backlink from a school. All school websites are highly trusted and authoritative in Google's eyes. So getting school, same with like government websites, but those are all great backlinks to get. And then you can also focus on broader link building. So everything I just went over is considered local link building. So those are all from sources that are very local to your area, right? They have that local focus. Broader link building would be getting links from industry websites. So this could just be an industry blog, right? And maybe this blog is based out of Seattle, Washington. They're not local to you at all, but they are relevant to your industry. And the best way to get listed on one of these types of industry blogs is in the form of guest posting. And what guest posting means is that you write a piece of content and then you submit that content to that blog for free. And in exchange for them getting it for free, they're going to link back to your site. And typically you want to do it within the content of that blog post. So they say, sure, I'll post this piece of content. You say, no problem. There's a link back to my website in there. That's what they're expecting. And they're willing to do that because you're providing them content for free that they didn't have to write, or they didn't have to hire a writer to do that. So an example, right? If you're looking for an example of what you can write about, 5 mistakes first-time home buyers make. You might already have this type of content created. And as long as you don't already have it on your website, you don't want to create content that you already have published online and then submit it for someone else, because that's duplicate. Remember, we always want to avoid duplicate stuff. But if you have a new piece of content, or maybe you just have it on a PDF and you're not using it online anywhere, then you can start to reach out to industry blogs and see if they'll accept that with a backlink to your website. These are some of the best types of links that you can get. So how do you do that? One of the easiest ways is to go to Google and you type your industry plus blog, okay? And then if you click on tools over here on the right, you'll see that below the search bar, and then filter it by the time frame. I always like to select past week. And what this is going to do is filter it for industry blogs that have been active within the past week. Because if we keep it past year and they haven't published anything in 11 months, chances are you're going to waste your efforts of reaching out to them. But if they just posted 6 days ago or 4 days ago, then that means they're active and they're probably accepting some type of guest posts. So you can click through to these websites, go find a contact form or find an email address on there, and just simply reach out to them and say, hey, you know what, I've created this piece of content called 5 mistakes first-time homebuyers make. I think it's really relevant to your audience. You know, would you mind accepting it as a guest post in exchange for a backlink to my website? And that's really it. And you'll either get ignored, you'll get a yes, or you'll get a no. I mean, those are typically the answers you'll get, but a lot of times they accept them, they'll post it, and now you've just secured a backlink. So it's a great way to secure backlinks from industry relevant websites that are out there. So that's it for the link building piece. Now, what I just want to do quickly is just recap everything that we've detailed in this training, just as a bulleted list, so that you can have that to reference as well. And then I'd be happy to answer more questions. So this is going to be your checklist when we're all done, if you decide to go on and do a lot of this stuff on your own, right? The first thing you're going to do is you're going to optimize your Google My Business profile, right? And if you don't have one, you're going to set one up, or if you have to claim one, you're going to claim it first, and then you're going to go through those optimization steps. And then you're going to focus on getting as many reviews as possible, right? Because Google loves reviews. They're going to promote you higher if you have a lot of reviews, and then you're going to respond to those reviews as they come in indefinitely. You're always going to start responding to reviews. And then you're going to run a local audit, right? And that audit is going to look at all of your local citations, and we're going to look for inconsistencies or errors or missing. And then we're going to clean up those citations, we're going to fix them, and then we're going to build ones that are missing, because those are really important. And then you're going to, if you have a website, you're going to look at your title tags and meta descriptions, make sure you have Google Analytics and Google Search Console. And then you're going to start to focus on creating great content. This is going to be text on your website, blog posts, photos, videos, audio, Google My Business posts. You're going to focus on all that great content. And then you're going to do the last piece we just covered, and that's building those locally relevant links and then the broader industry style links. Now, I know it seems like a lot. I've been talking for a long time, covered a lot of information, and if this is all brand new to you, it's probably super overwhelming. But don't stress about getting all of this done at once. This is something that you can spread out over time and just tackle one task at a time, and just go through the list and tackle them when you can, and just do it at your own pace, because there's a lot to it. But just remember that I'm going to give you a lot of the tools that you're going to need to do this. One is going to be the free training guide. And then I'm going to give you the opportunity to speak with me directly if you want some additional advice once this is all done. And then I'm going to invite you to a Facebook group where you can also ask questions. So just to show you a few more testimonials to highlight, just in case you're like, is this guy full of it? Or can you really help people? I showed you the one. Here's another one that highlighted the SEO service provided by GHAC's team. Has been nothing short of perfect. With our SEO work, they got me ranked in the top 3 within months. And SEO service is top notch. Now, you know, we have a ton of reviews. Again, I'm just showing you these, not to brag at all, but just to show you that, you know, these are real reviews from people that we've worked with, just to show you that, you know, the guidance that I'm providing you actually does work. This is the exact steps that we use when we're working with clients. So before I get into the details of the bonus offers that I'm going to give you, do we want to answer questions now and then get into those, or do we want to go to those and then answer questions? Up to you.
No, there's been no questions populating in there. And when you're done, we'll just open up microphones and they can ask any questions, or they can schedule the call through the link that you're going to provide as well, so they can get some more in-depth personal one-on-one attention from the man himself.
Yeah, that works. That works. All right, so here's the deal for you all today. I have 2 special offers, and then I'm going to give you the 3 free bonuses. And you get the 3 free bonuses whether you take advantage of either of the offers or not. So you're going to walk away with those 3 free bonuses no matter what. So don't stress about that. And the first bonus is, like I said multiple times, you're going to get this entire training guide so that you can go step by step if this is something you want to take care of on yourself. The second is going to be that free 30-minute phone call with me personally. And it doesn't even have to be about this stuff. Maybe you're like, you know what? I'm not really feeling this right now, but you know, I'm trying to figure out Facebook ads, or I'm trying to run some Google ads, or I'm trying to do something with YouTube. We can talk about anything that pertains to digital marketing over that 30-minute phone call. So you'll have that opportunity to book that with me. Or if you want to cover a variety of topics, you know, we can do that as well. So don't think you just have to use it for what we talked about today. But I want to make sure that you're all invited to set up that phone call. Now, if every single one of you takes advantage of that, you know, don't be shocked that if you're booking out, you know, a few weeks out, because if I start getting a lot of bookings, but I definitely will get to you if you book that time on my calendar. And then the last free bonus is I'm going to give you a link to I have a private Facebook group that's specific to growth marketing. So I don't just talk about Google My Business and SEO. I do talk about those things, but I also talk about other things that can help you. Facebook ads, Google ads, different types of targeting, content. And within that Facebook group, you know, I occasionally post, as I create content, I post my content there for educational purposes to help you. But you can also ask questions in there at any time, and I will gladly hop in there and answer it for you. So even after we have our 30-minute phone call, if you still have more questions, you can always go into that group and ask questions, and I'll hop in and answer it. I love giving advice and helping people anywhere I can. So make sure you definitely join that group so that you can take advantage of that. And there's going to be a link to that group included in the email that you get. And it's also in the free training guide that you get that you could just click on and then request to join, assuming you're on Facebook. So all of that is about $1,000 value. I'm just giving you that for free. So I hope it's all very useful to you and that you can take advantage of it. Now, here's going to be the step-by-step process on how you get everything. It's super easy. The first step is you're going to enter your name and email address on the first page using the link that I'm going to give you in just a couple slides here. There's going to be a link that comes on the screen. And maybe, John, once it comes up, maybe you can post it in the chat. I don't know if that's possible. Where they can click on it. Yeah. And so when you click that link, you're going to come to a page where you just enter your name and email. And that's so I know where to send the guide to. It's going to trigger an automatic email, and that it's going to email you the free training guide. And then right when you do that, it's going to redirect you to a new page, which is step 2. And on step 2 is going to be the first limited time offer that I have for you. And that's a 40% discount on the Google My Business optimization service. Okay. And then the second offer is going to be local SEO tracking and monitoring. And I'm going to detail what these look like. And again, you don't have to take advantage of these. And if you don't, there's a big red button on both of these offer pages that say no thanks. And so if you don't want either of them, you just click that no thanks to progress to the next step. Okay, so here's what the offers look like. So for the GMV optimization, basically it's called GMV done for you. It's going to be $327. And what that includes is either the complete setup of a new GMV profile plus optimization, or the optimization of an existing profile. Plus, I'm going to run a full local SEO audit. And this is going to look at all of your local citations to identify good ones, bad ones, incorrect, inconsistencies. It's going to look at any backlinks you have and what the authority is, what your current search rankings are, what your current reviews look like, and then what your social channels look like. So it's going to be a full, super comprehensive audit that you'll get to access so that you can review all that stuff. And then the second offer, whether you take advantage of the first one or not, you can do both, or you can do either or, is you're going to get that full local SEO audit that I just mentioned. Plus, you're going to get anytime access to a dashboard that's going to have continuously updated data on your search rankings, the local citation tracker. So again, remember those local citations are what we talked about with the apps, your name, address, phone, your reviews, and then Google My Business tracking. So this is just what one of the dashboard looks like. So let's say you start to do these things yourself and you start out with a poor local listings rating, and you're starting to update them, you'll have access to this dashboard where you can come in and watch this go to good and make sure that you're on the right track to doing the right things. Okay, and then step 3 is you're going to book your free 30-minute call with me. And then the fourth thing you're going to do is join the Facebook group. So this is all in sequential order. So one last time, first step, you opt in to get the free training guide. It's going to automatically present to you the first offer. You either take advantage of that or you hit no. Either one you do, it's going to take you to the second offer. You either take advantage of that or hit no. And then it's automatically going to take you to the last step, which is to book that free call with me. And then once you're all done with that, you'll have the free guide, you'll have your free call book, and then you'll have the link to your Facebook group. So here's the link to get started on doing that. You just type in, it's bit.ly, which is bit.ly/location-offer. So if you just type that into Google exactly as is and hit enter, it'll take you to the first step. And I think John just also posted that into the chat. So you can copy and paste that into your browser. So while you're doing that, if there's any more questions, I still have more time. I know we've been on here an hour and a half or so. Many of you may need to go, but if you want to stay on and ask questions, I'm happy to stay on longer and answer questions as they come in.
Anybody feel free to unmute your microphone and speak with Antonio and ask your direct questions.